Alright, the Destined King has appeared, even though it's literally just one set after the Destined one has been revealed. This is one of the fastest evolutions I've seen since basically Baiko Mass for one, or in a way Omnigruzio, because it was introduced in the same set. But yeah, we got the evolved form of Levidras right immediately after the next set, and I was not expecting this at all, but the Destined King being the opposite of the Fated King is very expected. I was just not expecting it this soon. And honestly, I really like it, especially the chosen one being Levidras. It could even be Leo Odium as well, either or. I actually would expect one of them. At least the poster in a way kind of makes sense now because they're the two kings. But anyway, the deck actually got a huge improvement because of Levidras Empireo. Ever since Levidras came out, it's a mainly go second deck, and if you go first, it becomes very lackluster. But with Empireo, going first has gone a little better just because now you could actually make full power plays on your very first grade 3 turn if you went first. It is possible now just because of Levidras Empireo, but it still has some consistency issues, but it does also fixes some of the problems if you actually have everything all set. But anyway, what I think about the deck, still very cool as always. It plays a very unique way of basically bringing back force markers in a way. These do absolutely nothing, they just represent the markers for Levidras' skill. And you're going to need at least 10 of them because Levidras is going to give out a lot. Especially when you're on Imperial, you're going to give out even a lot more, combining that with the Divine skill. But also, it has the cool aesthetic. And with negative force markers on your opponent, which is something I also really like because anything that can negatively impact your opponent is something I always like to have some interaction with. So I just kind of ended up playing the deck, especially the cool aesthetic, like I said. So I kind of just ended up building it. And the evolved form makes it even cooler, even though it is kind of the same thing, just inheriting the original skill, but a little bit of improvements. And you'll see why once it gets revealed. But on that, let's just begin with the deck profile with, of course, the Ride deck. And as you can see, you're still using the original form of Levidras because you really need it. So first off to the Ride line, Stag Sniper Dragon, just because it fits the theme. And you have to run it because it's for the grade 1 where you go to Scorp Piercer Dragon, where you can ride the grade 2 for free if your soul is the grade 0. So you ride this for free, Mantis Scythe Dragon. So when you ride Levidras on top of it, Energy Blast 3, look at top 5 cards of your deck for one grade 3 or less card from among them and add it to your hand. The fact that you can literally search any key piece is just very nice already for this ride line. And the other nice part is that it doesn't have to be just the original Levidras because you could just ride to the Fated King immediately. Although the Fated King still needs the original Levidras, in which we can now go to the new grade 3 because you could ride any Levidras on top of it. Levidras Empireo, the Destined King of Infinity. So anyway, the skill is that it gets plus 5k power for every original Levidras in your soul, and also inherits Divine skill while also being treated as the original one. That is very nice because meaning that you could persona ride on top of the original. That is very key right there. But if you're wondering how we're going to get the 5k power, it kind of just relates with the next few skills. But the part of inheriting the Divine skill is just very key, especially because that will generate more Infinity Eye markers. And no, if you ride this on top of original Levidras, you cannot activate that Divine skill with this one on the same game. As a reminder, Divine skills can only be activated once. But anyway, the second skill is that once per turn, counterblast 1, or put a card from your hand to soul, choose any 2 circles and put Infinity Eyes markers on them. But if you put Levidras, you put a third one. This is very key because you get to choose instead of original Levidras way where you had to put one on your side and one on your opponent's side. The fact that you can put multiple on your side is just very helpful, especially to power up your own rear guards. And that is a better choice than basically Levidras itself. And also the alternate cost condition. The fact that you can put a card from your hand to soul saves you counterblast instead. And in some cases, you do use a bit of soul. So just filling up your soul is just also nice. Also, because if you put original Levidras, it also powers up the first skill, and you inherit the Divine skill as well, which is also very doable. And the fact that you could just ride this if you go first and get 3 markers is also very huge because you're not going to get 3 markers in your very first grade 3 turn if you're on original Levidras. This one, it is possible, you just need to have the Levidras in your hand. This is why you want to kind of run the king in your ride deck rather than have the original in your ride deck, because it kind of does a little more and a bit better. But anyway, to the last skill, which is basically the same as the original Levidras, where when an Infinity Eyes marker unit attacks, plus 10k, but if it's your opponent's unit, minus 10k, and you can remove it to draw a card as well. So it's just the same as the original Levidras, force marker on your side, negative force marker on your opponent's side. Overall, it basically improves the deck because you actually have some first turn implications, and also going first is now better because of this. And now to the main deck itself. So first off, speaking of the base form Levidras, you have to run the base form Levidras. Just mainly for the divine skill, but like I said earlier, it has the ability where you can count one to choose one rearguard circle on your side and one on your opponent's side to give it Infinity Eyes marker. And also has the negative and positive force marker skill for your side and your opponent's side. But the divine skill is what it inherits, where you can Soul Blast one, basically give one marker on your side and one on your opponent's side, and plus 10k and 1 crit. This is just basically more marker expansion, and also this requires both players to be at grade 3, which is why this originally had to go second, just so you could get 3 markers, because you want at least 3 markers to make sure to make your full power play. But with Empireo now, if you go first and you have a Levidras in your hand, you can make 3 markers if you go first. So that's why you still want to go to Destined King first. But you mainly use this just to make sure that Empireo is at full power. So you just have to run these. And of course, speaking of Empireo, Persona Ride reasons. And now to some of the new cards. So first up, we start off with Charmant. So the skill is at drop zone. If you have at least 3 Infinity Eyes markers, and here it is, you require at least 3 Infinity Eyes markers. If you do not have a same card name on your rear guard as this card, you can Soul Blast one to call this the rear guard. Basically, it's kind of the maple of the deck, although it requires Soul Blasting. So yeah, you will need Empireo a little more now, but it's just a recursion, so it's already very nice. But the second skill is that when this card attacks, if you have an Infinite Eyes marker in the same column as the unit, you can retire another rear guard, and this card gets plus 10k power, and at the end of the battle, retire this unit to draw a card. Yes, you're basically retiring 2 for 1 draw, but this does reoccur itself, so it's not entirely too bad, and you have a lot of superior calling as it is, so that's also very nice. But the nice part is that it gives itself extra power, and the fact that its superior calls itself, it makes very huge numbers, and the extra draw power is also very nice. So yeah, this card is just very good for the deck. That's why you just run 4. So that's it for the grade 3 lineup. To the grade 2 lineup, so you still need to run the Odageister. So on place, you can Energy Blast 3 if you have an Infinite Eyes marker in the same column anyway. To look at top 2 cards of your deck, one goes to hand and the other goes either to top or bottom and then plus 5k. That is very good because letting you choice draw is always very nice. But the second skill is that during turn, if you have at least a grade 3 Vanguard Levidras and it's in the back row rearguard circle, and you do not have another copy in the back row circle, it can attack from the back row and also plus 5k. And here's Levidras multi-attack. It's basically extra attacks in the back row. It's basically Magnolia at this point, but restricted to Infinite Eyes markers. And yes, this does require at least 3 markers to do so. But overall, it's just here because obvious draw power and obvious extra attack, you will have to obviously run 4 of these. And then for the last of the grade 2, it's for Huli, because this one on place, if you have Infinite Eyes marker in the same column, Counter Blast 1 to superior call a unit from your drop zone that is grade 3 or less. But if you have at least 3 Infinite Eyes markers, plus 10k as well. So basically it's a high power attack that also superior calls. This card has been proving very strong for me, so run 4 of these. And now to the grade 1 lineup. First off, the Levidras booster, the Foxtail. Like all the other Divine Skill boosters, they become basically 15k boosters for the Divine Skill unit on the Vanguard. But the additional part is that when it boosts the Vanguard, you can Counter Blast 1 to choose one of your back row units and it can attack from the back row and give it plus 10k. Once again, basically stealing Magnolia's playstyle. But of course it has to also be with an Infinity Size marker as well, but just extra attacks is always very nice. And then we run 4 Clarence. So basically at the end of battle, it attack while you have an Infinite Size marker in the same column. You can put this to Soul to countercharge 1 if you did not countercharge during the turn. Obvious countercharge, must run. And then to another new card, I run just 1 Squirrel. Some people have tried out like 2, some people run none. Personally, I think that this could actually be just 1 or 2, because at the end of battle, this sword boost, you can Soul Blast 1, move this to an open back row rear guard with an Infinity Size marker on it and stand it and then plus 5k. The grade 3 retires your stuff, so it's going to clear up your board. So the fact that you could just boost and then just move this to another circle that is open and restand it for another attack is also very nice. And the fact that you could just choose this with Foxtail, giving it a 10k power buff to boost first and then just attack with it after is just nice. Although it is a little awkward card to play at the same time because you just have so many ways to just call a bunch of units already that in a way you don't really need to use this because you already can perform your 5 attacks. But at the same time, I do like that extra boosting because the extra boosting does do few things like extra power. So it is debatable if you want to run this or not. So far, I've been testing this out as 1. It's been working decently well for me. but I might actually just take this out for another card. And then finally, for some more reoccursion, the Antha, just because you need a field, especially with your new grade 3 going to retire your stuff, you might need some reoccursion from the drop zone. And then finally 4 PGs, choose whichever ones you want. And then the OT, 8 crits, I choose Pepper for nature theme. 3 draws, so you can draw your key pieces as soon as you can. And finally 4 heals, and 2 being counter heals. So that's it for this deck profile, my Destined King of Infinity Levidras Empireo deck. What do you guys think of it? What other cards would you recommend, and what other changes would you make? I just gave you my deck profile, and so far I've been liking it. I've been liking the deck ever since it came out, just because it has its own unique playstyle, bringing back basically force markers and also giving a negative force marker to your opponent. Design wise, it's also very cool, which is why I also like it. Although for the Destined King, I was not expecting it this soon, especially evolve form as Levidras. So that was a huge win for me with that unexpected part, especially the Levidras support that we kind of need, because we really need that third infinity size marker as soon as possible. And now it has a way to go first because of Empireo. But other than that, there's really not much to say about this deck. It just looks cool, has a unique way of force marker, and if you like Mega Colony plus dragons, this is the deck for you. And also the fact that Levidras Imperial was introduced like one set right after Levidras was introduced really reminds me of old antagonist cross rides. I still remember when Phantom Blaster Dragon was introduced on set 4, and then set 5 we get Phantom Blaster Overlord. Maelstrom, Lori Maelstrom, set 8 to set 9. I still remember those days. So it kind of gave me that little bit of a vibe there. Even though it wasn't completely necessary to bring the King immediately. But we got the Destined King, which is opposite of the Fated King. It's just too bad those two never clash. Hopefully they get to clash in the Deluxe tournament. But other than that, that's it for this, and see you next time.